Hi all, welcome to the Business Analyst Training Program. In our previous session, we have seen details pertaining to an introduction to business analysis and concepts. So we have seen in detail what is a business analyst role, what is business analysis process, what will be a setup in a software company, what are the various roles and responsibilities for each of the roles, what is a project, what are the different types of projects, what is software development life cycle, what are the various methodologies within software development life cycle? So what are the 6 stages of software development life cycle? We have requirement planning, requirement analysis, design, implementation, testing and deployment, maintenance and support. What are the various software development life cycle methodologies? The traditional methodology followed in the software companies which is being followed even today is a waterfall methodology. Most of the software companies have moved away from waterfall methodology and have now started using agile methodology. So within agile, I've explained to you in detail what do you mean by agile, sprint and scrum. We have also seen RAD, rapid application development, when to use waterfall, when to use agile and when to use rapid application development. Further to that, I've given you an introduction to MS Visio, how to use MS Visio, and we have also created a basic flowchart using MS Visio for patient login page. Now let's move on to part 2 of the training curriculum, wherein we're going to see each and every phase of the SDLC, 6 different stages of SDLC in detail. Primarily the requirements planning, requirements analysis, design, system design and functional design in detail. Okay. Next. Other than that, we have the implementation, testing and deployment. So testing, we will see that in detail, and then maintenance and support activities. Okay, so today we will see some of the concepts of requirements, including requirement planning and requirement analysis. So together, there will be an assignment question pertaining to the software development life cycle and explain the requirements, types of requirements. And then also there will be a Visio diagram for you to practice. So we'll see what are the different types of requirements, what is the definition of a requirement, and what are the different types of requirements. Okay. What are the different types of requirements, or what is the definition of a requirement? So the very first stage in the software development life cycle is about requirements planning and requirements analysis. So what are requirements? First, you must understand what is the definition of a requirement, and only then you can work on the requirements planning and requirements analysis. Great. Requirements are what you need to do to enable the implementation of the software. What is a basic requirement for a task to be achieved? In the same way, what is a basic requirement or what is the basic need of a software or a system or a product or an application that you're developing? What should be there or what should go into the software? What is the functionality for which you have created a software? So that is nothing but the need of the software or the requirement of what function should the software perform. If you buy a laptop, you know what function your laptop should do for you to work on different types of documents or files or anything, use the calculator application, perform different functions or activities using your laptop. But there is an expectation of what a laptop should do. So that expectation of what a laptop should do, the same definition goes to your software development. What the software has to do or what should the software perform, right? So what should the software do? The software has to perform different types of functionalities depending on the domain that you work on. If it is a HR management system domain, it will be HR related functionalities. If it is for e-commerce or online shopping domain, of course, the software has to perform customer related, sales related, procurement related, warehouse related, logistics, shipping related information, the functionalities. So it has to capture all the information pertaining to customer, sales, warehouse if it's for e-commerce. If it's for a hospital management system, so the software should capture information about a patient, about the specialist, about the receptionist, about the various treatments that are offered by the hospital, the lab facility available within the hospital, the pharmacy facility available within the hospital, right? So all of these put together define the need of the system or the functionality of the system. So you will be working on the functionality part of the system in detail, how to break the requirements gathered into different functions at a later stage. We will learn it step by step. Now we will see what are the different types of requirements. Now that you've understood the definition of a requirement, you must also know what are different types of requirements. So you have business requirement, user requirement, system requirements. Right? So there are three different types of requirements. What is a business requirement? Higher level statements of goals or objectives that are the needs of an enterprise or the need of a business. So higher level statements of goals and objectives that define the need of a business is referred to as a business requirement. Next, you have the user requirement. Statements of the needs of a particular stakeholder or class of stakeholders. So what the stakeholder or a stakeholder's point of contact has to define is referred to as a user requirement. Next, you have the system requirement. In system requirement, describe the behavior and information that the solution will manage. So that's about the system requirements. So the requirements are at a very high level classified into business requirements, user requirements, and system requirements. So what are business requirements? The goals or objective. What the business wants is defined as a business requirement. What is a user requirement? What the stakeholder or a stakeholder's point of contact or what the user wants, end user wants. That's defined as a user requirement. What's a system requirement? The need of a system that describes the functionality or the behavior of the system is referred to as the system need or a system requirement. Okay, so these are very important. What is a requirement and what are the types of requirements? Next, requirements planning and management. What methodology will be used on the project? How will you gather the requirement? That's the most important. Now you know what is a requirement, what are the types of requirements, what are the different methods in which the requirements are gathered. There isn't only one method where you say, I will go, I will talk to them, I will get the requirements and I will document. Very easy, but that's not the only method. Face-to-face communication is not the only method that's one of the methods for gathering the requirement, but that is not the only method that is followed to gather the requirements. Elicited means requirements gathering. Gathering or elicitation, both means the same. Either you can use the term requirements gathering or requirements elicitation. So in companies, they will be using the term elicitation. So get used to the term elicitation. What methodology will be used on the project? So we will see different methodologies or different ways in which the requirements have to be gathered. Okay. Requirements elicitation techniques. Requirements elicitation is the practice of collecting the requirements of a system from users, customers, and other stakeholders. So it is the practice, or it is a task of collecting the requirements from different end users. It can be a user, it can be a customer, it can be a stakeholder, or it can be from external people, it can be from a vendor, it can be from, at times if you're working on retail projects, you have to visit malls, you have to visit sites. So at that time you may also have to interact with the public to get the required information. The practice is sometimes referred to as requirements gathering, but the actual term that you have to use is requirements elicitation. Okay. So where can you go to elicit the requirements, or where should you go? Whom should you contact to get the requirements? Or elicit means get the requirements. Users, managers, executives, programmers, other business analysts, existing systems, old systems, websites, external people, public, wherever you have to, whomever you have to contact, and wherever you have to be there. To establish that contact, you have to be in that particular location, establish the contact with the people to get the required needs of the system, or require the requirements of the system, elicit the requirements of the system. So there isn't a specific group of people whom you will focus or target. Requirements communication. Communicate requirements back to the stakeholder. Very important. It is not just what you listen from stakeholders' point of contact. What you hear from them is not just sufficient. You must also tell back what you have understood. Right? So they would have given you the requirement, but you have to clearly tell back to your user from whom you have collected the requirement. Just reiterate to them that this is what you have captured and this is what will be implemented as a requirement of the system. Reviews mostly. So you have to review the requirements. Small knowledge area. So requirements are always gathered in smaller pieces of information gathered, and then that is put together to form a bigger set of information. Now we move on to different techniques for gathering requirements. There are many techniques using which you can gather the information. So we will start with stakeholder analysis. We have a template for stakeholder analysis. So we will see information pertaining to the stakeholder analysis and the template relating to the stakeholder analysis. What is stakeholder analysis? Once your sales department receives a project, the contract is signed and it is given to the business analyst. Business analyst takes it further from there. Business analyst will analyze what is the need of the business, what the stakeholder has asked for, or what the project is all about. Once that is done, stakeholder analysis is very much important. But before stakeholder analysis, first the business analyst should visit the company. It can be if it is an internal project, the business analyst will visit the business unit which has given the project. If it is an external company, external stakeholder, the business analyst should visit the stakeholder's company to get the required information. Okay. Once the business analyst goes to the stakeholder company, there will be a face-to-face discussion with one point of contact, generally a top management person. It can be a senior manager or it can be at a director level, vice president level. Why that happens is because they would like to see the business analyst, meet the business analyst right at the beginning, and how the business analyst carries themselves, how they explain, how they showcase their company, what is their understanding about the project that they have received. All that information is what the top management people will observe. That is the first impression that they will get about the company after the sales contract and agreement signature, the approvals. The business analyst is a person who's going to interact with the stakeholder company. So it's going to be a half an hour or 1 hour discussion, maximum 1 hour with the top management person. They will be explaining the project at a very high level, but there will also be an expectation for the business analyst to have an understanding even before they meet the top management person. Various details about the project, the company, if the project is going to be for the sales department or the HR department or the marketing department, whichever department, they will give an overview of what that department is all about, whom should they contact in that department, right? So all those set of informations will be gathered and it will also be shared with the business analyst. So once the meeting is over, once it is done, the same day you have to meet the point of contact. It can be your manager or an assistant manager. Of course, you cannot expect a manager or an assistant manager to be with you all the time to give you inputs. So what you have to do is ask them an overview of whom you should contact on a day-to-day basis, who will be giving you the system needs on a day-to-day basis. Generally, they will provide an analyst or a senior analyst who's very much experienced, right? Or it can be a technical lead, a lead of the process. They should have a very good idea about what the existing process is. Only then they can explain to you very clearly of what has to be automated or what the software functionality should be. What is the existing process? Is there any existing system? And if they've already identified what should the proposed process should be and what should be the proposed system. So there will be one point of contact or more than one point of contact who are well versed with the process, who have been with the process for many years, 3 to 5 years. 3 months, 6 months of duration in the process is not at all sufficient for them to give you the inputs because they have to explain the older system, the present system, and what they want as in the future system, enhancements to the future system. So in that case, you will have an experienced analyst or a senior analyst or a lead of the process who will be explaining you what the process is all about, be it for any department, what the process is all about and what should be done in the software, what should be implemented. So you have to, as they assess you as a business analyst, whether you're capable or not, you will also assess their capability, the stakeholders' point of contact, whom your stakeholders organization or the client organization has assigned. You will analyze their capability. If they can give you the required set of information, right? So what is stakeholder analysis? Stakeholder analysis identifies all the users and stakeholders who may influence or be impacted by the system and who can give you the correct details or the information that you are looking for to develop the software. This helps ensure that the needs of all those involved are taken into account. So what are the benefits of stakeholder analysis? Ensures that all relevant stakeholders are considered. At times, if there is an existing system, you may have to contact the development team of your stakeholder company. So whenever I say stakeholder company, remember it is an external company. Another company which has given project to your company. They are going to pay your company. So they are stakeholders. Stakeholders are also referred to as customers or users, end users, clients. Generally, we use the term stakeholder or client. Benefits. It ensures that all relevant stakeholders are considered. It is not just specific to process. If there is a need for you to meet the business person, you have to meet. If there's a need for you to meet the developer, you have to meet the developer. For an existing system which was created in your stakeholders company 3 years, 5 years ago, which is being used in the stakeholders company, to get more understanding about the existing system, you have to contact the stakeholder. Stakeholder at various levels. So point of contact is not just at a process level. It can be a developer, it can be a tester, it can be a process-oriented person, it can be a business-oriented person, it can be a quality group, Six Sigma initiative. They might have identified these kind of projects. Generally, process improvements and new software developments are created by Six Sigma. The main job of a Six Sigma is to identify process issues. So what is the efficiency or the performance that you can bring about in a process? How can you improve the performance of a process, right? So in that case, the Six Sigma might have identified this project, and to get the Six Sigma team's needs, you may also contact the Six Sigma. It can be generally it is a green belt professional working in Six Sigma team. So don't restrict yourself to one or two point of contacts. Feel free to get introduced to a number of people in your stakeholders company. At the same time, remember, you don't work for their company. You have gone from your company to their premise to just get the requirements. So with the permission, you can contact people and get all your required needs of the system. All important stakeholders are captured, and yet that irrelevant actors are not included. Underline. So those who are not relevant, even if they try to interfere and try to give you the needs or try to interact with you, if it is not beneficial, don't go ahead with that contact, because they may not help you with your system needs. What are the drawbacks of stakeholder analysis? There is a danger that too much time is spent on identifying roles and relationships. Correct? So this is a drawback when it comes to the stakeholder analysis. The team is swamped with data. There's so much of information that you can gather because there are so many stakeholders, so many people that you get to meet within the stakeholders organization. So if you don't make the correct choice of people from whom you have to gather the information, you'll have a lot of information from everywhere, and you will be confused which role should I contact. Which developer? There are 5 developers. Should I interact with every developer there? Not necessary. So you must identify the correct stakeholder point of contact, or identify the correct potential. Who has the correct knowledge of the process or the system? That should be your main area of focus. So once you identify that, automatically you will get the required information from the point of contact, which is very, very valuable to you in terms of developing the system. So you won't have a lot of data, and you won't have number of roles involved giving you a lot of information, right? Stakeholder analysis is the best practice to get the required information, but at the same time, you must know how to identify the correct resource and what is the correct set of information that you have to gather. Don't collect all the information documents that you get. There's no time, enough time to verify so many documents that you get from a number of people. Any questions so far? What we have seen is the definition for what is a requirement, what are the types of requirements, and different types of requirement elicitation techniques. So how to elicit or how to gather the requirements for the benefit of participants who have joined now. This is what we have covered so far. Requirements are the needs of the system. Business requirement, user requirement, and system requirements are the 3 types of requirements. Requirement elicitation means gathering requirements from the stakeholder, from the client. So in SDLC, what we have seen 6 different phases. Requirement planning and requirement analysis are the first 2 stages. So in that, we have been concentrating on the requirements planning, how to plan to get the requirements, whom to meet to get the requirements, and how to gather the requirements. That's what you will do in the requirements planning stage. Next type of elicitation, the first type we have seen is the stakeholder analysis. The next type is brainstorming. It's pronounced as brainstorming. It is utilized in requirements elicitation to gather good number of ideas from a group of people. It is not one point of contact. In stakeholder analysis, you will have one point of contact at a time to discuss with. Right? So you're not going to have a group of people to share ideas or to come up with new set of ideas. In brainstorming, you have at least 5 to 7 people involved, professionals or employees involved. Generally, brainstorming is not done at the employee's desk. It is done in a meeting room. Stakeholder analysis and getting the correct stakeholder point of contact can be done on floor or at desk. Workstation is what I meant. Brainstorming is carried out in a meeting room. So you will identify all the required number of people who are the key personnel to be involved in the discussion, schedule time with them, and then maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of discussion, but try to come up with as many ideas. Should the existing process be changed, or should there be enhancements to it? Should the existing system be scrapped? Try to get more information from different sources or different people involved in the process. Key people, not everyone. Very, very important. Who are decision makers of the process are the people whom you're going to identify to get the required changes or additions or deletions to the process or the existing system, which is a very important input or a need for the new software to be developed. Good points, bad points, information, thinking, thoughts, new ideas, old ideas, ideas those were dropped and not implemented. No, I'm not feeling good about this. It takes a lot of time. Everything put together is nothing but the brainstorming. What are the basic rules? Start out by clearly stating the objective of the brainstorming session. Generate ideas. Let your imagination soar. Means openly share the imagination. It can be from a BA's end or people involved in the discussion. Do not allow criticism, and debate is not what you're looking for. All you need is a positive outcome of the discussion. If the situation goes out of control, change the topic and move on to another topic to discuss. Once information is gathered, reshape and combine the ideas and tell, okay, finally we have all discussed these many points, and out of the 5 points that you'll write it down on a whiteboard or in your notepad, generally on a whiteboard. Finally, you have to put all the ideas together and say, this is going to be the new functionality that's going to go into the software. Do you all agree to this? Can this be documented? And finally, they will say yes. So you will take all the requirements, you will make a note of that in your notepad, and another business analyst will be taking minutes of the meeting. For brainstorming, you will have minutes of the meeting to be written down by your business analyst. We have a brainstorming and a legend diagram, which is very important, which we will see at a later stage, maybe in today's session. What are the benefits of brainstorming? Generate variety of ideas in a short time. If you approach each of the point of contact to get their opinion, it's going to take a lot of time. So getting all of them together in a meeting room and getting their viewpoint, what do they think? What has to be changed? They may have several points in their mind which they would have thought, okay, if this feature is added to the software, or the software is completely removed and a new system is in place with all these features, of course the process efficiency will improve by 100%. It's going to improve by 150%. Very good. So those are all very valuable points that you have to capture, even if they have not done the documentation. Don't expect your stakeholders point of contact to keep everything ready for you, the document ready for you. As soon as you go, they give you the document, see everything is there, please see this and develop the software. No, that is not possible. So you have to put all your efforts to get the correct requirements. It's small pieces of information put together with a lot of people involved, discussions involved. It will take a good shape, or you'll have to form it correctly as a system need or a requirement. Produce new and creative ideas. So the same point being discussed by n number of people is not going to give you any new idea. So what you have to do is identify some new ideas out of the discussion you're going to have with it. So what are the risks here? The risk of having a bad session. Always in an organizational setup, we have this practice of people trying to say, I know better than the other person. It's a common thing everywhere. Okay. So how will you handle those kind of situations when More than discussing the subject and getting the output pertaining to the subject, beyond that, they have started proving themselves that I know better than you, you know better than me. That's not what is needed, and a debate is not what you're looking for. So, if it turns into a debate or an argument, it will be a bad session and you will not get the required ideas or new implementation the new implementation action items as an outcome of the brainstorming session, which is a disadvantage. What's the use of spending 2 to 3 hours of 7 resources, right? It is a billable activity, so you have to make the best use of it. And of course, they are resources from your stakeholder company, so you have to be very careful. They're going to spend 3 hours of their billing on giving requirements to you, so you have to make the best use of it and try to let the people talk, let the professionals talk and get all the required details from them. So you should have your agenda, brainstorming session agenda, or the topics to discuss, questions to be asked, topics you will ask a question or a topic is what you will open up, and then they start discussing more about that topic pertaining to the project, or the process. Making staff scared to voice their ideas. Some of them may be really loud and they will be talking more about I know this, I know that. And there are some employees who are very good with their skill sets, who are there in the process from several years, but they will be worried or they may be scared to voice their opinion. So you have to identify those kind of employee, invite them for the brainstorming. Even if they are in the meeting, they will just be observing. They will be observers. They won't participate. They will not talk. So what you have to do is call them out by their name and ask them for their opinion. If you do it twice or thrice, they will start talking on their own. They will feel comfortable about the session and start sharing their very good ideas or what has to be done in the software to be created. That's about the brainstorming session. There are many elicitation techniques that we're going to discuss. If any of these techniques are confusing, please do let me know. Or if you think it's an overload, because there are a number of techniques that we're going to discuss today, we can stop, we can do some other theory part or a diagram, and then we can revisit the other elicitation techniques. What is one-on-one interview? As the name specifies, there's going to be one person questioning and another person answering. So the person questioning is called an interviewer, W-E-R, ends with W-E-R. The person who's going to answer is called an interviewee, W-E-E, interviewee. One-to-one interview or one-on-one interview, one-on-one discussion is a very common process that we all follow to gather the requirements. So the most common technique for gathering requirements is to sit down with the client's point of contact and ask them what they need. Very first question, can you please tell me what is the need, right? The discussion should be planned out ahead of time based on the types of requirements you're looking out. Though it is a one-to-one discussion, still you must plan it well. You must know what are the types of questions you have to ask the stakeholder point of contact, right? There's no use of asking the same set of questions again and again, or the process which they have already explained to you. If you have any further questions, you can ask, but ask them repeat the same thing again is not a good sign of your understanding or your listening capacity. What are the benefits? Privacy of everyone. So whatever you discuss is going to be between you and the stakeholders point of contact whom you're going to discuss with. In depth, the stakeholder's thoughts and get his or her perspective about any part of a process, any workflow within a process. So that's the best part of one-on-one interviews or one-on-one discussion. That's what it means. What are the risks and drawbacks? Time consuming. It takes a lot of time. Why? Because if you have to gather information from different point of contacts, then the time that you spend with each resource would be more than having a group discussion or a brainstorming session. There is also a possibility for misunderstandings because you will be discussing with person A, and after 1 hour of discussion, you're going to discuss with person B. All that discussion that you've had with person A cannot be shared with person B. So the requirements that you get from person B may be slightly contradicting to what person A has told. So there is a chance for misunderstanding when you get to meet different stakeholders' point of contacts to gather the requirements in a one-on-one interview. Group interview. So as the name specifies here, you will have group of people participating, 2 or 4. In a brainstorming session, you have 5 to 7 of them participating. In a group interview, you have 2 to 4 people at the same level of knowledge pertaining to the process will be participating. It's called a group interview because you will be asking questions to each of the participants. And of course, they will be answering you. So there's one interviewer, that is you, and you have many interviewees, 2 to 4 interviewees, 2 to 4 professionals who are there in the room who can answer you or your questions. This is not a group discussion, this is not a brainstorming session, but each one of them are specialists in their own, experts in their own areas. So they will be answering the questions that you ask. What are the benefits? We can get hidden requirements, uncover a richer set of requirements in a shorter period of time, uncover ambiguities. So these are the benefits. What are the risks and drawbacks? Not relaxed environment. There can be conflicts. The allotted time may have got exhausted. By the time you finish with 2 point of contacts, you would have finished the 1 hour, and the other 2 people who are there in the group interview may have to spend additional time. So these things generally happen when you have more number of people participate in group interview. Document analysis. Other than interacting with people and getting the requirements, be it a one-on-one interview, face-to-face discussion, or group interview or a brainstorming session, they will also give you documents that you have to analyze and gather the process information or existing system information. Imagine there exists a system, and that particular system contains documentation. So the documentation must be understood for the existing system. Other than a demo, they cannot give you any other information about the existing system. The only thing they can share with you is the document. Document analysis is an important gathering technique. Evaluating the documentation of a present system can assist when you have to make decisions about the proposed system. Documentation of the as-is process or a present process can surely help you when you prepare the document for a to-be process. Mainly analyzing the documents to identify the gaps, existing process gaps and existing system gaps. So existing software gaps can be easily identified by going through the documents that your stakeholders' point of contact can give you. What are the benefits? Validating the requirement completeness. Chunks of information are mostly buried in present documents. There's a lot of information that is available within the document which you might have not received from your stakeholders' point of contact. They might have missed telling that to you. Though you have the oral discussion with your stakeholders' point of contact, still referring to the document, going through the document and capturing the required process and existing system details is a must. So that's called document analysis or existing document analysis. A beginning point for documenting all current requirements. What are the risks and drawbacks? When there are a number of documents that they share, the point of contacts whom you meet, the easiest thing for them to do more than explaining you will be to give you the documents. Okay, I will send you the document on an email. It is available on a SharePoint, share drive. I will give you the path. You can directly download the documents and refer to it. What happens? You have a number of documents and you have to go through each and every document to find out which is a useful document, which is not a useful document, which document can give you information, which is a document that cannot give you information. So the process is going to be time consuming. Conflicts. If there are multiple documents created by different users, surely it will create a conflict of understanding when you look at different types of documents. Exhausted. There's so much of information, so you're confused what is the type of information that you have to capture and which is the one which you should not include. So again, you have to gather the number of people to understand which are the requirements that should be the details obtained from the document that should go into your system requirements document. Not found real figures. You didn't get the actual details from the documents even after going through the documents. That's about document analysis. Next, we will see what is a focus group. In a focus group, you have a group of people involved, but this is different from the group interview. So how different is this from the group interview? In group interview, you have the required group of people. All of them are from the same area of expertise. But you are an interviewer. You will be asking the questions and they will be answering you one by one. But in focus group, it is a group of professionals who are from the same area of expertise. They know very well about the product, the process, and anyone can answer. But here you're not going to discuss more on finding new ideas or so, but to understand what each one of them are doing presently in their process or with the system. So they are experts in their own areas, be it a process or the system, and each one of them are going to talk about what they are doing and what is their expectation. You're not going to brainstorm, but from the correct area of experts or the focus group, they're going to focus on particular process or the system which they have been working on. So from the focus group, you can get the required information pertaining to the process or the system that you're looking for, because you will have all the experts gathered in one location in a meeting room and it's going to be a group discussion. Managed process with particular participants. That's a benefit. Manage the process with particular participants who are experts in their area of process or the system, existing system. Refine and validate the already elicited requirements. Supposing you have already gathered the requirements from an analyst or a senior analyst, and you have the assistant manager and technical lead, the process lead participating in focus group, because they are there in the process from past 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. So they are experts more than the workers who have been there for 3 years or 5 years. So when you have the leads, they will know nook and corner, or they know all the required information about the process or the system that they work on. So you can clearly tell them this is the requirement that you have elicited or that you have gathered, and what you have understood about the existing system, existing process, and what you're planning to do with the new process and the new system. You can very clearly tell them that you are planning to bring about a process change to reduce the number of steps in the process. So what is the need for doing it? When you reduce the number of steps in the process, of course, the number of steps in the new system to be created, software to be created, will also be reduced. Thereby, efficiency is achieved. Time complexity of the process execution is reduced to the maximum extent possible. But when you do that, you are from another organization, and of course, The people involved in your focus group are there within the system from many years, so they can oppose what you say from a process point of view. If you also have a developer from your client's organization, the developer may say, okay, you say that you want to scrap this completely and come up with a new system. So which is the technology you think? Of course, they will have their own set of questions. So you should be confident, be prepared to answer their questions. So anticipate what they can ask you in return. It is not just a question that you post. They will also ask you questions or clarifications because they are experts, right? And when you say something is wrong, you have to justify that and get their consensus, means their agreement. They should say, yes, okay, we are fine with it, we can go ahead. Allows analysts to rapidly obtain a wide variety of user views and possibly a consensus. That is the agreement of new implementation technique that you have identified. What are the various risks and drawbacks? Following the crowd, and some people think that focus groups are at best unproductive. Some of them will enjoy, come sit in the focus group, last benchers, they won't even participate, they won't give any inputs, they'll just watch the meeting, 2 hours of time well spent, they will walk out. So that's being very unproductive. Make sure the resources who participate in focus group are the right resources, and they have to talk, they have to give the required information, and they have to give their consensus. When you ask them, is this correct? This is what I've captured. This is what I'm going to do in terms of process. This is what I've understood about the system, existing system. And this is what I'll be doing about the proposed system. Do you agree to all of these? So you should check with each of the experts who participate in the focus group. Any questions so far? So we have seen different types of communications. So one is one-to-one communication, that is one-on-one interview. Brainstorming, group interview, focus groups. So these are all involving more than one professional or an employee in getting the requirement. Document analysis is something where you don't have any human being to explain you, but you have all the documents. So go through all the documents and try to identify yourself what is the process or what is the system need that you're looking for. Interface analysis is another type of analysis where human being is not involved. What is an interface? What you interact with, your systems, softwares, existing softwares, front end, and how the front end communicates with the back end. So ask them for a trial, ask them for a demo login, test login, and get hands-on with the existing system. If there doesn't exist a system at all, you have only the process. They say we have recruitment, we have payroll, we have leave management, we have performance appraisal. We don't have any system. We are doing everything manually. Very good. You don't have to worry at all. It's all from the scratch. Get only the process information, create the workflow, get their approval, finalize the technology, and start with your development. The problem is when there exists a system, because they have a lot of features that will exist in that system, which they want to be carried forward to the new system that you create. New set of features to be added, existing features to be changed, and even after giving you the requirements, once you start implementing using agile methodology, lot of changes can come through. Okay, in our system, we have 5,000 characters of limit. Initially, they agreed for 5,000 characters limit similar to the existing system. Later, during the implementation, they are telling that, no, can we increase that to 10,000 characters because that is not sufficient. We thought it will be enough, but now we think, this will be a better idea. So what will you do? Agile implementation, you have to accept it, and you have to, if it's a small change, you can do it. Otherwise, you have to go through CCB. So main problem starts when they have an existing system. Each and everything they will compare with their existing system. Okay, this is what is in the existing system. What's happening in the new system? Process-wise, it's okay. It wouldn't be a bigger issue. But if they have an existing system, each and everything will be compared, and you should be well prepared to say what you are developing for them is ahead of what is there currently or what is available with them. Right? So you have to justify. They may throw questions at you. I think our existing system is already doing this. The developer will tell from the client holders, stakeholders, and your client's organization. I think this is already being done. PDF and other file format XML download is already available. So what is new? Why should you create this new screen in that case? You have to give an explanation. What is the change? So interface analysis is very important. How many screens exist? Within each of these screens, what are the various functionalities? How many web pages exist? Within each of the web pages, what you have to understand from the existing system, and what is that you have to implement in the new system. So interface analysis is nothing but each and every screen or each and every web page should be analyzed, understood. What is the current functionality of look, feel, functionality of the interface, and what is that is expected. Do they want to stick to the same number of screens or web pages, or do they leave it to your choice of how you want to break the functionality and how do you group the functionalities together with number of screens and web pages? So all these system related factors are determined when you do the interface analysis for an existing system, and you come up with what should be the interface need for a new system. Okay. Other than this, you have observation or social analysis. Human interaction is something we have discussed. System interaction is something we have just discussed. Documentation and interface analysis, these are all system interactions. Observation, what is happening around you? You cannot ask a few questions to your stakeholders' point of contact, or they will not bother to explain it to you by default. For example, you're seated at your stakeholder point of contact's desk. They've been giving you a demo. Either it is shown on their system or they will be showing you the process documents and explaining you what are the various workflow, etc. In between, you observe that a printer is constantly printing. Non-stop it is printing. There is another person in the HR department who's continuously receiving calls. What is happening? It's not a call center. Why is that person continuously receiving calls? Do you have so many hiring needs that have been posted that candidates are calling continuously, the HRs? Why? Why is the candidate, why is the executive, HR executive continuously attending calls? Why so many printouts are being continuously done? It's executed. So many pages have been used to print the documents. Then you look around. Some corner, there's a table and there are so many papers that have been piled up or files that have been piled up. HR, how much ever you automate, whatever is the new technology you introduce, end of the day, the paperwork will never end for the HR department. Same way, sales department. Contract signing. Always they will prefer hard copy signatures. Even business analyst, you will have several hard copies. You will be given a cabin for that. Working drawer will be given and you have to file all the hard copies that you get signed and you have to store it properly. Okay. So there are many other observations and social analysis that you have to do and ask. These questions or these topics will not be discussed with you by default because for them it is a daily process. They know this printer will print non-stop. That person will attend, person A will attend the calls throughout the day. And number of files will increase on that table. Why it is increasing? Who's going to clear that? What is that meant for? No one knows. These are all observations. So you should ask. Because you can identify if there is a way you can completely remove the manual work which is being done, thereby saving FTE. FTE stands for full-time employee. 8 hours of work every day is referred to as a full-time employee. Per month, if the number of hours of work exceeds 1900 or 2000 hours, with an estimation of 8 hours every day, per month of 22 days, if it exceeds 1900 or 2000 hours, it is one full-time employee's salary. So you must also concentrate on If you can remove these manual processes, though it is not defined, there's no human being to explain this to you, there's no document or interface to explain this to you, but still you have observed something that is happening around you. You can ask why. During the lunchtime, you see that some of the HR executives do not go out together. I mean to say, they don't go out on lunch break all at once. If 10 people go out, there are at least 2 or 3 of them who stay back in the department. Why is that happening? What type of calls are they expecting? Or what type of emails are they expecting? Can there be an auto response to these kind of emails? What is making it so process critical that without people, even during the lunch break or during their tea break, why should someone be there in the department? Can't this be automated? So these type of questions can come up only by observation, right? So social analysis is also known as observation. What is happening around you when you're talking to your point of contact? Of course, you'll have some spare time. You can also see what's happening there, who's walking, who's talking there, who's walking from one desk to another desk, which person is just there on the desk all time, which person moves from one desk to another desk. It's not a waste of time. It means they are doing manual work. If they're on their system forever, for all 7 hours, 8 hours, it means everything is automated there. If you see a person walking from one desk to another desk, very often manual work is going on. So how can you reduce that? Or has that been identified? They might have missed to identify that. Instead of walking 10 times, 20 times there, you can automate that completely. You can bring a share drive or a automatic download of resumes. So what is happening? You asked your point of contact, and the point of contact says, oh, nothing much. There is a candidate resume that has come up. This person A is printing that resume and they're giving it to the recruiter. HR executive is printing it and giving it to the recruiter. Recruiter looks at the hard copy of the resume and they start calling the candidate. Is this very much needed? 20, 30 times they're walking up and down to just give a printout of the resume. One, wasting the pages by printing. Two, spending time in walking from one desk to another desk and handing over the resume. Can't this process be completely automated? Very easily you can do that. So when you ask, they will explain. At times, even when you ask, they can't explain. So you have to look for a higher level. Contact the assistant manager, lead, technical lead, process lead, or an assistant manager or a manager to get the information, right? But you should not tell, see, you people are doing this and it's a waste of time. Never say that. It is their process and that's what they want to do. But you can give a suggestion. Don't say what you're doing is wrong. That's an incorrect approach altogether. Never say, even when they explain things by default, or when you observe something, never say this is wrong. Never use that words. Don't say it's incorrect. You can say, I can give you a suggestion for better improvement. That's a better way to put forth, and you can also achieve success there. They may accept it. And if at all that is accepted, you can take it back to your organization and you can say, look, I gave this suggestion and they have accepted it. It's a very good sign, right? So what are the benefits here? The ability to record and report all findings that are true based on your observation. It is more practical. Practically, you're looking at things. You will analyze if this practical activity that is being carried out, is it logical or not? If it is not logical, then remove it. Why? Additional efforts. No long calculation has to be done. You're observing it and you're immediately reacting to it in a positive way. Risks and drawbacks. The viewer's or researcher's own perception. Few trial studies, objects observed, looking at the other desk, looking at people moving around, other machines that work. You may get to work in a manufacturing firm, right? So as a business analyst, how will you analyze? It's a machinery-based organization. And what they say is production is less. Why? Because the production manager is not able to analyze what is the per day effort that should be achieved. As a business analyst, you're going to create a software for that. So you should understand the manufacturing unit, product that they manufacture, machineries that are used. And your observation is very critical in these kind of companies. Manufacturing company, instrumentation technology companies, machinery, automobile companies, mechanical engineering companies, machine drawing companies, or it can be aeronautical companies. Which other company can I tell you? E-commerce, warehouse, when you visit the site and when the activities are manually done, whichever industry the activities are manually done, and they want a system to automate or capture all the details of the manual work to bring down the efforts involved in the manual work, that's when your observation will hold a major place. It's very, very important there. Drawback, it can also result in an error. It's a very important need for them, and you may say, can this be avoided? So that is totally incorrect. Before you suggest something, you have to think what are the pros and cons of it, and only then you can suggest to the stakeholder. Any questions so far? So we have been looking at different types of elicitation techniques. In different types of elicitation techniques, we have seen one-to-one, one-on-one interviews, focus groups, group interviews, brainstorming, document analysis, existing system interface analysis, and your observation. Without interacting with any human or without looking at any document, you're just looking at the surrounding and trying to analyze the situation. What is happening around you and questions based on your observations. Next, we move on to prototyping. So I've already explained to you what do you mean by prototyping. We will see two types of prototypes. What are the two types of prototypes that we can analyze? One is a dummy prototype or a wireframe that you create using pencil tool. Another prototype is actual working prototype. In some of the companies, you might have seen group of people entering a meeting room, bigger conference room, and after 3-4 hours, they'll come out of the room. You go there and see they would have covered the whiteboard. They would have drawn small squares, cylinders, connectors, connecting lines. What are all those? Is that a network hub? Or is that a software? Is that a process? Is that an architecture? What is it? It is called a whiteboard prototype. They're trying to bring the entire functionality of the system or the software on a whiteboard. It's a dummy prototype. It has all the functionalities of the software to be created or the existing system, either ways. But in terms of small representations using shapes of their choice. It can be a circle, it can be a square, it can be a triangle, it can be a rectangle. Wherever they want, they will draw that and use the connecting lines to create the basic workflow within the system to be created or to analyze the existing system. Finally, they'll take a snapshot of that and it will get circulated, a picture of it, and it will get circulated as a whiteboard, B-O-A-R-D, whiteboard prototype. It's a dummy prototype. You look at that prototype and you can use the pencil tool to create a wireframe on your system. So what is that? It is a system-based prototype or a system-based wireframe that you are creating. Other than that, the prototype is of another type. The other range that you can do is actually start working on the application. So that's what is a prototype methodology. So where the actual application gets developed, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% of the application software's functionalities get developed. They write the code with basic understanding of what functionality, with a basic business requirement document created by the BA, they will start developing the software altogether. So that's a trial and error. It may get scrapped. So it is understood. It can be a success, it may be a failure. But still, they want to work on the actual prototype with buttons having functionalities. Every button, every radio button, every checkbox, it's going to have a particular functionality. So prototyping is a relatively modern technique. In this approach, you gather preliminary requirements that you use to build an initial version of the solution as a prototype. It can be a working prototype or a dummy prototype. You show this to the client. If there are any additions or deletions to the requirements, system functionalities, the client will let you know. And then you will continue the development process. What are the benefits? Prototypes can be ideal to reduce the design risk. But if it is scrapped, total loss to the business. It is more practical. Screen mockups. So if these are dummy prototypes. So what are the two types of dummy prototypes? What do you mean by a dummy prototype? Buttons, radio buttons, check boxes will not have functionality. But you can see that in the front end. Right? So whiteboard prototype and which is the other one, wireframe based prototype that you can create using a tool called Pencil or Balsamic. We will see how to create wireframe using Pencil as we progress through the course in a different topic altogether. Also, to prototype, you can use some animation tools to give a basic understanding of the system's functionality. There are risks and drawbacks. If it is a working model, good enough, because already 40% of the development work is done and you will work on it. But after developing 40% of the actual software, if there are changes of almost 80 to 90%, waste of money, right? So you have to reinvest in rebuilding those features or functionality. So it is more costly to build based on prototypes. It takes time to build. Everywhere, if you have to create a wireframe, a dummy prototype, get an approval, and then analyze, a lot of time will take to build the entire software. False sense of security. You think it is very secure, it's very nice, safe way of developing, but actually talking, working model of a prototype is not the suggested way. And these days in the software companies, I myself have seen it, they expect proof of concepts to be created. Company is investing in proof of concept. Client may agree to the proof of concept, may not agree to the proof of concept. Correct? So what is the use of creating a proof of concept when you're not sure of getting a project? Even if you get a project, the client may agree to it, may not agree to use the same. They may expect the development to start from the scratch. So working model prototype is a risk in terms of the money invested. Any questions? Sessions or workshops. Facilitated sessions. In a facilitated session or a workshop, bigger sessions I'm talking about, you want the finance department, audit department, quality department, testing department, HR department, all possible departments, sales, marketing, everyone to be assembled in one place. So you have to find a bigger auditorium. You can't do it in a conference room. There's no enough place to do it. Either you have to find a bigger place external to your company or in an auditorium kind of a bigger hall. You'll have different tents, T-E-N-T-S, tent. So what's a tent there? A table will be placed. You'll have at least 4 to 5 professionals from each of these business units. Some major business decision is going to be taken. So from every business unit, you will have the key people involved. At least 4 of them will be there. Different tents will be given to them. Group of people will be seated together. Finance will sit together. Audit will sit together. BA group will sit together. Testing will be in the testing group. And a tent will be placed on their tables. A cardboard will be placed with a name, audit, finance, HR. So you must have seen these kind of session-based discussions in bigger organizations, right? So what are they trying to achieve there? Instead of contacting people through emails, getting consensus for major project decisions, you have decided to get all of them in one place, a common place for a common purpose, for a project benefit, finalizing the project needs and finalizing the project major decisions to be approved. You will go ahead with facilitated sessions. There is a way in which you conduct the facilitated sessions. In facilitated sessions, you may also need a lot of materials to work with, cardboards, glue sticks, pens, sketches, sticky the smaller sticky notepads where you can write and you can paste it on the whiteboard. Many materials are needed. So you should also provide some facility to the people attending. You have to, it can be a longer session. It's not going to be like a brainstorming 2 or 3 hours. It can last for 1 or 2 days, right? Some of the workshops or facilitated sessions last even for 5 days, one complete week, right? So what happens then? You have to make necessary arrangements, accommodation arrangement, food arrangements, and beverages, or whatever is the facility needed for the people who are going to participate. You will have professionals from your own organization and from your stakeholders organization. So you have to take care of them very well. A lot of departments are involved. Facility department is involved. Business analyst department is involved, right? Project management is involved. Product owner is also involved. So this is going to be a huge session that lasts for at least 5 days or so. And then you'll have some major decisions as the outcome out of the facilitated sessions. So what are the benefits here? Less time. You have group of people who are all involved participating in one place, and you can get all the required information in one go. What are the risks and drawbacks? It is more expensive because you have to make necessary arrangements for them. Need for extra facilities as per the participant, what level of participants you have. If you have someone from the top management group, you have to make necessary arrangements for that. And you have to prepare the handouts and readings as needed. Okay. Any questions so far? Next, we will see what is Joint Application Development or JAD. So JAD or Joint Application Design or Joint Application Development means involving all the technical people, getting them to a common place, and then discussing about the domain model and the system model or the system functionalities that should actually be implemented. So that's called joint application design. You're designing the application or the software as a joint effort. What is the benefit? Typically, you have a number of domain specialists and technical people gathered together in one place, documented and agreed to what should be the actual design of the system, and then finalize the development activities to be carried out. You can have n number of JAD sessions. It is not just a one-time activity. You can have n number of JAD sessions up to the time you think all the relevant people involved in the software development get the correct understanding of what has to be designed and what has to be developed. Risks and drawbacks: when you have more number of sessions, it can turn out costly in terms of billing and facilities provided. It takes time to build because each and every development activity is discussed and then implemented. So when you have agile discussions, sprint reviews, you don't have to go with JAD. Only if there is a need, you will do JAD. But in waterfall methodology, JAD is a must. Right? So you have to collectively get people understand what has to be done. Meetings are regularly conducted, and then you start implementing the system functionality that should actually be developed. Again, false sense of security. So though you discuss, you should make sure that what you have discussed goes into the development. It should not be an unproductive session. So always, any session for that matter, it has to be very productive, be it a group discussion or be it face-to-face or one-to-one discussion. Questionnaires. So what our question is, when you get to work on these retail analytics or retail domain projects, or when you work on machinery related projects, when you have a large number of people working in a company and you need all their inputs, questions are available and you're only looking for answers from varied levels of users. So what should you do? You have to prepare a questionnaire. Questionnaire can be in form of an Excel file, Word file, or the easiest way is to create a simple web page and host it. You can get your RAD developer to develop a simple web page, one single web page, and load all your questions. The answers should get saved in the database. The best way to get inputs from several users in one go at any given instance. If you're working on retail projects, you may have to visit a mall and understand the end user's need. So which brand do they buy very often? So you don't have to distribute pamphlets or handouts for them to use a pen and tick the answer, etc. So all that you have to do is identify what are the different types of questions that you have to ask, right? Once you identify the type of question that you have to ask, prepare the questions. So once you have the questions prepared, what you have to do is either you ask the end users to give their input. In some of these malls, you must have seen people, some of the electronic devices, it can be an iPad or any type of an electronic device that's placed at the entrance of the mall, and you will be given an option to work on the electronic device to fill the options. Which brand do you prefer? Which brand of cheese or butter do you buy? How many times do you buy vegetables or fruits within a month, within a week? How often do you shop? How far is your residence from the mall? So there can be different types of questions. Why do you do this? Because you have to get an answer, and based on the answer from a larger reach or from a number of people, you will take some major decisions. What are the risks and drawbacks? Difficult filling for users. Participants may forget important issues. Stakeholders may not be willing to answer the questions. If they are not willing, you can't force them. If they're willing, they can give the input. Participants may forget some of the important answers to be given. So it's not complete, but still you're trying to get inputs from maximum number of users. Though the information gathered from maximum number of users possible is not complete, but still you are trying to capture all the details so that you can come to a conclusion. At least by asking questions and the answers received from the customer, you can come to a conclusion. Okay. Next. Survey. How is a survey different from a questionnaire? Survey means you have the set of answers given to the end user and they have to choose multiple objective type questions. So it's a survey. When you're conducting a research, you can ask survey related questions, which can be numbers or which can be yes, no, true, false, these kind of choices given to the end user. So what is the benefit of conducting a survey? It is of less cost. You can target larger participants. Detailed and critical inspection of information can be achieved using survey. Difficult, what is the risk or the drawback here, difficult filling for users. Some users may not participate in survey. We get so many survey requirements, right, on our social media portals. Do we bother to answer everything? No. So people may ignore. You have taken all the pain to create your website, you've hosted the website, everything is done. But how many of them are going to attend your surveys? Generally, questionnaires are specific to people within your organization. If it is within the organization, you can expect maximum reply. When you're targeting public, you can't force them. So you can only ask them to give their inputs to the questions you ask in questionnaire or the survey related queries. Use cases and scenarios. We will see this in detail. This is called use case modeling. But try to understand, in a use case, you will mainly describe what the user wants and who is the actor involved. That's what you will define in the use case scenario and the use case diagram. Together, it is referred to as a use case model. Requirements reuse. You have gathered a requirement and you can reuse the requirements which you have already gathered to satisfy some particular functionality of the system. So thereby you can reduce the time. So this is a very simple, straightforward thing. Everywhere, be it process or system, if you have to reuse a requirement, you have to plan it and then have a proper justification to say the requirement which was gathered for functionality A can be reused for functionality B or C, or a part of functionality B or C. Thereby we can save a lot of time in not spending hours together getting the same requirements for other system functionality. Request for proposals, RFPs. Very, very important, right? RFPs and RFQs. These are sales related terminologies, but as a business analyst, you must also have an understanding of what is a RFP and what is a RFQ. So I will give you an idea of what is RFP and RFQ. If you're a vendor, you may receive requirements through RFP. This list of requirements is there for you to compare against your own capabilities to determine how close a match you are to the client's need. Client is telling you what they want. So when they say what they want, it is called a RFP, request for proposal. It is a proposed requirement that I am asking you as a client. What you can do is something you have to tell me. And based on what you can do that you tell me, I will decide on the quotation that I have to give you. I need this. Can you do this? Yes. You say out of 10, I can do 8. Then I will decide what is the payment that I have to give you or the pricing that I have to decide with you. That's what is the difference between RFP and RFQ. Reverse engineering, another important set of activity. Not all processes or systems will have the required information. You can also expect systems which exist, which is being used, but there is no documentation, there's no system design, there's no architecture, there's no process documentation, nothing. Only thing you have is a person who's working on that process and they can tell you whatever they can to the maximum extent possible. So what you have to do, get access to the system, get access to the process. After you have seen what the person has explained you, do a reverse engineering, do it all by yourself. Back to from the last step to the first step. It's called reverse engineering to understand, not in terms of the process. I'm not telling do a last step of the process to the first step. That's absolutely incorrect. What I'm trying to say is each and every process or a system which is being followed, you have to reverse engineer or try to understand by implementing the system and the process steps workflow all by yourself. Only then you will understand what are the other dependencies of the process or the system. And you have to make a note of that because there isn't any strong documentation pertaining to the existing system or the process. So once you do a reverse engineering, understand the actual steps involved, you can involve your developer. If you don't know how to use a system, you can involve the developer as well. Finally, you have to come up with a documentation for the as-is process and as-is system. If there are no documentations available, it's an age-old process in some a very traditional company that's there from years and years together. All that you have to do is reverse engineer and first create the document for as-is process and to be process. Then you can decide, as-is process and as-is system. Then you can decide what should go into the to be process and to be system. So we have now covered a number of techniques. So let us see a summary of what we have learned so far. Stakeholder analysis, analyzing the stakeholder. Brainstorming, involving 5 to 7 people, getting new ideas or changes to the process or system. One-on-one interview, having interview with people on a one-on-one basis. Group interview, you will be the interviewer and the people answering you will be the interviewee. You can have 2 to 4 of them involved in group interview. Document analysis, it's not a human being related. There are no working employees or professionals involved. They'll give you all the documents. You have to analyze the document and understand things on your own. Focus group, at least 5 of them will be involved. They are experts in their areas and they can give you all required inputs. Interface analysis. In interface analysis, you will be analyzing the existing system or the processes interfaces. Observation or social analysis, one of the easiest tasks, observing the surrounding where you are seated or where you are gathering the requirements. Prototyping, 2 types, working prototype and a dummy prototype. Dummy prototypes can be a wireframe or it can be a whiteboard prototype. Facilitated sessions, these are bigger sessions. Facility department, many other facilities, accommodation, their meals, their lunch arrangements, refreshments, whatever is needed. You have to take care of everything. People from your organization and the client organization will be involved. Tents will be placed and each one of them will have to give their own consensus pertaining to the project. JAD or Joint Application Development. What do you mean by JAD or Joint Application Development or Joint Application Design? Together you will have all the required technical people. Underline, technical people are involved in application development to get the inputs, finalize the outcome, get the consensus, approvals and go ahead with the development. It's a joint effort. You can have a number of such JAD sessions. JAD is a common terminology which you will hear when you work as a business analyst in a software company. Questionnaire, preparing the questionnaires in Word, Excel or in a web page format, posting it and getting the end users input. Survey. Survey mainly involves a research oriented or yes/no objective type of answers from the end user. Use case scenarios and use case diagrams, together it's referred to as the use case model, which we will see in detail when we learn more about the UML diagram. Reused requirements. Requirements that are reused. Right? If you have already gathered requirements for particular system functionality or sub-functionality, instead of, if you clearly know that the next system functionality is going to be very much similar, there is an editor functionality. Again, in second part of the system, there's another editor functionality. In recruitment, in payroll, both. So do you have to get the editor's functionalities again? Editor window should have bold, italic, underline. It's already defined. It's already collected in the recruitment stage. So you'll say reuse requirements from the recruitment editor window. That's all. It's understood. Use the same set of requirements which you have gathered for recruiters editor window and implement the same thing in leave management system, payroll system, performance enhancement system, wherever you have to use. Request for proposal. What I want from you as a client is called a request for proposal. What you can do looking at my proposal is what is your capability. Based on your capability, I will give you RFQ, that is request for quotation. You will ask me, you will send me a RFQ. Please give me the quotation and I will give you the price quotation of based on your capability after looking at the RFP, request for proposal, which I have sent to you as a client. I being the client here and you being the business analyst. Reverse engineering. You don't have document, you don't have an interface. The system exists, but you don't have documentation, or the person who's explaining you has minimal knowledge, nothing much can be done. So you have to understand the process, the system, get hands-on. Always, if there is an existing system, my suggestion, what I have done in the past is work on the system similar to how the end user will work. Only then you will get the experience of what is happening, why they are finding it difficult. If they show it to you, they video recorded, they do all type of things. Even after all those efforts, you have to put your effort to work on the existing system and see what is feel the experience, get the experience, what is happening, why it is getting difficult. Even you will face the same difficulty which they have been facing from months together now. Right? So then you can very clearly define what is a problem and how to overcome the problem. That becomes your perfect problem statement. Your own experience with the existing process and the system issues of your stakeholder becomes the perfect problem statement for which you have to find a solution as a business analyst. Got it? Any questions so far? We are done with all the types of requirements elicitation techniques. So which is the most popular elicitation technique? You can look at this bar chart. You have questionnaires, easiest one, interviews, very common. Most of us prefer interviews, right? One-on-one interviews. But more than one-on-one interviews, at least have 2 to 3 people at a time and finish your interview process. One-on-one can be more time consuming. Prototyping is a common method. Wireframing, whiteboard prototype, drawing on the whiteboard, the solution. Very common type of requirement elicitation technique. Brainstorming, yes, we also do that. But generally, we club focus group, group interview, brainstorming, everything together. Involve more number of people, get the input. That's all is the meaning for group discussion. Together, we give it a term, group discussion. Interview, we don't call it an interview. We say it's a face-to-face discussion, right? One-on-one or face-to-face discussion. We don't even use the term interview. People have moved away from using the term interview. Interview, they think it's a job interview, but it's not a job interview, right? It's a face-to-face discussion. Fine. So this is the bar chart that gives you an idea of which are the most frequently used requirement elicitation techniques and which are least frequently used. Very, very important. What you have learned so far is the base. That's for requirement planning. When you talk about software development life cycle, the very base or the fundamental of a software development life cycle is getting the requirement for a system. How do you define a requirement? What are the different types of requirements you have to gather? Whom should you contact to gather the requirement? What type of communication should you follow to gather the requirement? Is that a unidirectional communication? Bidirectional communication? What do you mean by criticism? What do you mean by negotiation? What are the different requirement elicitation techniques? In each and every technique, in each and every project, should you follow all the requirement elicitation techniques? No, it is based on the situation. So based on the situation, you must decide what type of a communication you should have. Is that unidirectional? Yes, ask a question and let them talk. That's all you want? You can do that. There's nothing wrong. Don't think everywhere you have to talk. All you have to aim is to get the requirements of the system or the software so that it can be implemented efficiently. You know all the techniques now. So you have to take a situational decision of which technique you should follow, whom to talk, how to talk, when to talk, where to talk. Very, very important as a business analyst. Diplomacy is very much needed because if it is within your own organization, even if something goes wrong, you can work around that and solve the problem. But this is with a stakeholder, right? So you have to be very, very careful. It's the reputation of your company. You are representing your company. If something goes wrong with you, of course, your company's reputation will also get spoiled. So in requirements planning, you have to clearly plan what is the requirement that you have to gather. What type of a requirement technique you have to follow to gather. How much of time is needed. Prepare a schedule. You should prepare a communication plan. We have templates for stakeholder analysis communication plan, which we will see in today's session. Now, the requirement planning is done. You've planned, you've implemented, you've gathered, you have all the details with you. Next, what you should do. Analyze the information which you have gathered, right? Is it insufficient that you keep gathering requirements, talk, get, read the document, please collect all the requirements, copy, paste in Word document. End of it, what are you going to do? You have to analyze, right? Having so much of information, handful of information it's worth, but analyzing, breaking down the requirement into a functional need of the system and non-functional need of the system, requirement classification, these are all very important topics to be handled as a part of requirements planning and requirements analysis. There is a thin line between the requirements planning stage and requirements analysis stage. Even after you move on to requirement analysis, there can be some requirements that are missing. So you have to revisit and get the requirements. So you again going back to requirements planning, right? So there is a possibility you can't put an end to your requirement planning. In the analysis phase, if you find something is missing, something needs to be clarified, some information has to be discussed with a group of people, again you go back to the elicitation technique, follow the required procedures, schedule the time, schedule the communication time, and you have to get it done. Now there are a few terminologies that you have to understand even before we move on to techniques of requirements analysis, requirements gathering, classification of requirements, and then solution scope analysis. So we will try to understand some of these simple terminologies. What is process analysis? To bring about process improvement, you must analyze a process. Process is nothing but a part of your business. What is the need for a process? What is a process? Posting the job description, identifying the candidate, shortlisting the candidate, inviting the candidate for an interview. These are steps in the process, procedures in your process. So what is the process here? Hiring a candidate is the process. Who is going to do? Recruiter is going to do. What is this entire process called? Recruitment process. Processes will exist in each and every domain. Without a domain, there is no domain without a process. Without a domain, there is no business analyst activity or a software development activity. If you have to automate something, there should exist something manually that is done. So what is that being manually done? It is a set of steps. So what are those set of steps? It's nothing but a process. So always remember, to create a software, to automate manual activities. Why am I using the term process so many times? Processes are domain specific. In a capital market industry company, the process is different. In a hospital, process is different. Dental center, process is different. In retail industry, process is different. Each and every industry will have their own set of processes. You cannot master all the processes even before taking up your business analyst job profile. You can only learn the business analysis process, concepts, perspectives, techniques, tools, technologies. But domain specific is too vast. That's why we say a business analyst can gain domain knowledge only by experience. As you work on many projects, you will also learn the domain and you have the subject matter expert who's going to help you with process analysis. You have Six Sigma group who is going to help you with process analysis. You have the production group or the process group. They have senior analysts working in the process from many years. They are also going to help you in process analysis. Correct? So process analysis is an unavoidable task as a business analyst. If you have to bring process improvement, if you have to bring business improvement, you must understand the process. Process is not just a process. It is called a business process. It is a business. Within that business, you have a process. Correct? So you must understand the business involved, what is the business need, and then what is the process associated with that business, and then analyze the process to bring process improvement. A process improvement can be brought about by introducing a new system, replacing an existing system, or enhancing the existing system. So it is not only the software activity that you're going to do, you are also targeting the business and process improvement. That's why we clearly say, right in the first stage, I clearly mentioned to you, As a business analyst, you have to bring about process improvement, business improvement, and IT improvement. What is the as is process and to be business process? I have explained this to you in detail. As is means existing process. To be means new process that you will be introducing. Changes to the existing process that you will be introducing is referred to as to be process. How to find pain points in the process and process automation if possible. Take help from the process team, production team, Six Sigma team, and your own analysis. That is also important. You can also check the number of escalations that have come through, number of issues that have been reported in the process, number of Jira tickets that have been raised for the existing system. Every day 200, 300 tickets are raised. So what is happening with that system? Big time it is to scrap that system. Every day you're getting 200, 300 severity tickets raised. This system is not working. PDF file is not getting developed. I clicked on the submit button. Report is not showing up. What is the use of using that system anymore? Boldly you have to take a decision. Please scrap that system. Let's do everything newly. That's all. There are phases, where you have to take a decision. Go decision, no go decision. Go decision means if at all you cannot use that system completely. It is an utter scrap. The functionalities cannot be carried forward to the new system. So don't hesitate. It was developed by your own companies, stakeholder companies, developer. It's not working. It's not working. That's it. Even the people working on that tool, they know it, and even you know it better after looking at and even getting hands-on. But you have to justify that. Take a decision and say, let us move away from the existing system. There are several severity requests that are coming up and several escalations that have been posted because of the system issues. So you have to identify, is that a process issue or a system issue? Is the existing software creating a problem with the process, or is that a process issue? Some of the steps are being skipped in the process. They have to open the data in a CSV format. They've been taught to do that, but the analyst has forgotten it, or they're not following it. They just double click the file and it is open in an Excel format. The complete formatting of data changes, that is leading to several process issues. So this is a process step. It has to be clearly followed. Open it as a CSV means open it as a CSV. Why should you open it as an Excel file? Losing the data format, date format, time format, currency format. Okay, these are all process-based issues which you have to observe and identify, that you can find out by looking at the process escalations that come up from the clients every day. They will list everything. Take the escalation list and see what is that is getting the issue that is getting escalated, or issue that the client has been reporting very frequently. Group all the issues together. That itself will serve as a very good process analysis for you. Object-oriented basics. Functional breakdown of the process. It is not just the existing system. Even the existing process can be functionally broken down. Break down each and every functionality of the existing. HR is the existing process. Break that down into recruitment, payroll, and then you have the leave management system, performance and appraisal, employee grievance, shared services. Shared services is meant for exit. People, those who are moving out, giving their final settlement, number of leave days to be adjusted. So all exit functionalities will be taken care by the shared services group. Mapping the business rules. If there exists set of rules for your process, for your business, that should be mapped to the process accordingly. There is a business rule. An email ID can be used only if that email ID doesn't give back a message that it is undelivered. It's a business rule. It should be applied to the process as well, right? It cannot be a hanging business rule that goes only into the business requirement document. What is the use? It should be related to the process. Where is the email sent? It is sent as a part of the process. It's a step in the process. So your business rule of a valid email ID's definition should be related to the process. Requirements management for your process. What process that you are following to create the system, or the existing system that is based on a process. So that should also be very well defined. In simple terms, you must know what is a process and how to analyze a process as a business analyst. Whom to contact if there is a process issue or something you must understand. Evaluation, another important term. Understand, verify or increase impact of products or services on customers or clients. Evaluate what will happen if you take a decision. Pros and cons, positive, negative. Will it be an advantage, benefit, or is that going to collapse the existing system and create even a worse situation than what the process or the operation department is currently facing? In that case, the business analyst will be completely blamed for ruining, completely spoiling the existing process. At least somehow they were trying to do something and now that is also gone. So who's going to agree? So you have to be very careful when you give a solution. So you have to evaluate your solution. Verify that we are doing what we think we are doing. So it should be correct. You have to evaluate the completeness, timeliness and accuracy. These three are important measures. How was a process measured? Based on timeliness, less time. Completeness, it should be complete. Accuracy, everything is good but there's no accuracy, quality is bad. Who wants it? So all the three measures, timeliness, completeness and accuracy, should be well defined for a process. Where should information be collected from? For evaluating a solution. Staff or employee, client or customer, program documentation, funders or investors. You can include additional professionals from whom you can get the information to take a decision to evaluate a solution. How can information be collected? Through questionnaires and interviews or face-to-face discussion. Okay, that's about evaluating a solution. These are simple terms. You will very frequently listen to these terms when you work in a software company. Setting up priorities, be it process-based or system-based or whatever it is, you have to set priority. Which has to be completed first, which has to be completed at a later stage. You have to get things done within the agreed time frame, but prioritize activities that you have to perform. What is due? Pending tasks should be given a higher priority. You have to complete that, similar to what you do in sprint. Sprint 1's output, the outcome, pending tasks should be completed even before you start with sprint 2 requirements. Correct? So always prioritizing activities are very, very important. Finally, feasibility study. Feasibility means analyzing if it is possible or if it is not possible. Evaluating is the risk or what is going to happen. Feasibility study refers to whether it's possible or not possible. If it is possible, then you evaluate what can be the advantage or a disadvantage. Right? Outcome of a possible solution can be a benefit or not a benefit. So that's what is called evaluation. But feasibility study refers to whether it's possible or not possible, whether it's a go decision or a no-go decision. Propose alternatives if it is a no-go decision. Identify new opportunities through analysis and understanding process. Identify reasons not to proceed with a solution. If you say it is a no-go decision, you should always justify that and you have to document it to say this particular solution is a no-go, it cannot be implemented. When you say yes, it can be done, there won't be a lot of questions. But when you say no to something, there will be a lot of questions from your end user. So you have to be very careful about your no-go decision. By conducting a very good feasibility study or analyzing the possible solution or possibility of creating a solution, you can very easily address or mitigate the factors early that could affect the project. Mitigate means find out. Okay, so that's about feasibility study. So when you hear these terms, process analysis, did you evaluate what is the feasibility of getting the solution done? Right? So these are all simple priorities. These are all simple terminologies which you must have a basic understanding of as a business analyst. These terminologies can be used in different phases. So there isn't any particular stage where they can use. Feasibility study can happen in any stage, but you must know the actual meaning of the feasibility study. Let us continue the session. Requirement classification. So as I've already told you, we classify the requirements at a high level based on the business requirement, user requirement, and system requirements. So here we further classify that into stakeholder requirements. So what the stakeholder gives you as a requirement is referred to as a stakeholder requirement. From the stakeholder requirement, you have to further refine, or you have to filter the need and then conduct a feasibility study and decide the business requirements. All the requirements which can be justified, which is possible, which is feasible, is taken as a business requirement. Once the business requirement is identified, the next step is to identify the solution requirements. From the stakeholder requirement, you decided what can be done, what cannot be done. What is possible, you, with a proper justification, you add that as a business requirement. From there, you further divide that into solution requirements called functional requirements and non-functional requirements. So business rules, as I've told you, business rule may exist, may not exist. If there is a business rule, it should be applied to the solution requirements that you create, which means the functional and non-functional breakdown of the requirements that you have gathered, business needs that you have gathered. So what are functional requirements? Addition of something, multiplication, or any of the mathematical functionalities. Modify the data, delete the data, view the data, search data, displaying data, comparing data, summarizing reports. These are all functionalities of the system. So these are referred to as functional requirements of the system. Next, you have non-functional requirements. All those supporting requirements that support the functional needs of the system or the functionalities of the system is referred to as a non-functional requirement of the system. Put together, functional needs of the system and non-functional needs of the system are referred to as solution requirements. So what are the various supporting needs of the system, supporting requirements that are required for proper functioning of the software? Globalization, localization, where the software is going to be used. Legal, finance and audit related requirements. Privacy and safety, security aspects, accessibility, usability, when to access, who's going to use, how is it going to be used. User documentation, training and support needs. Usability and accessibility, I just told you. Business continuity plan. If the software is deployed in the northern region and there is a natural calamity, employees cannot go to work. Of course, the software business continuity plan should be extended to the southern region where employees can go to work and they can get things done. So that's a business continuity plan. It is very much needed. What is the use of having functionality of the software without a business continuity plan? What is the use of having a software without knowing the usability? Who's going to use? When is it going to be used? 24/7 or 24/6? When is it going to be down for maintenance? Right? Infrastructural needs. So when you have a software with functions, of course, you should have proper infrastructural needs addressed. Infrastructural needs include data centers, servers, network patches, network connections, hubs, whatever is needed. Security aspects of the system. If security aspects are not addressed properly, as I've already told you, data can get hacked. The hackers will take away the data. Performance issue. So as soon as, say, about 1,000 users log in one go at morning, 10 o'clock. What will be the performance? Each and every user, one who's logging into the system, will have the same expectation. My web page should open within a few seconds. Right at the beginning for 10-15 users, it opens within a few seconds, and then on it takes at least half a second or 1 minute. Do you think they'll have the patience to see your software to buy a product? They will close it and go ahead with some other company's website. So performance is equally important. Support and maintenance. Support and maintenance are a part of non-functional requirements. Licensing. License aspects of your software. How do you give license to the other end users? Also, that's also determined by the non-functional need of the software. Without non-functional requirements, functional requirements are not complete. The software is not complete. So both functional and non-functional requirements are very much needed. Next, you have transition requirements. In transition requirements, readying the business unit when you have to transit from one platform to another platform, one operating system to another operating system, right? So you must know how to migrate the data, migrate the content. And then commissioning methodology. Commissioning means slowly, you cannot do it within a day. Slowly you have to stop using the older version and start using the newer version. For example, moving away from SharePoint 2007 to SharePoint 2013. SharePoint 2007 is an older version. SharePoint 2013 is a newer version. So slowly you have to you have to commission or remove the older version and bring the newer version. That's about the requirements classification. Next, you have solution scope. So we will be seeing each of these concepts in detail. Context diagram or a data flow diagram, business process model, logical data models, data dictionaries, user story, user personas, use cases, wireframes, functional and non-functional requirement document, BRD document, FRD document, SRS document, state transition diagram, state mission diagram, different types of UML diagrams. There are so many solutions that you can provide. So each of these solutions have a different meaning, and it is a part of the BA techniques which we will learn step by step. Okay. What is a business case? When you have a business requirement that you have obtained from your stakeholder, when you have a proper justification to the requirement that you have received from your stakeholder's point of contact, that becomes a business case. What is a business rule and a business requirement? Business requirement, capability to enter an email address for a customer is a business requirement. What is a business rule? A customer must have an email address. So that is without an email address, how will you provide a capability to enter an email address, right? Further refining it or making it even more perfect. What is a business rule? Revised rule. A customer must have a valid email ID. And how do you confirm that it is a valid email address? If the email address, if you send an email to the email address that you have, it should not return undeliverable within 60 minutes. Within 60 minutes, it should not return the undeliverable message. Only then you can confirm that as a well-defined business rule applicable to a business requirement. So there are various tools that we have seen so far in requirement gathering. When we talk about tools, it's not the actual software that is used for requirement gathering. These are the various techniques that you follow in getting the requirements, list of questions that you have to ask, use case model that you have to prepare to identify the user requirement and the actor involved, existing system analysis, whiteboard prototyping, screen mockups using wireframe or pencil tool. Understanding the stakeholder very well through stakeholder analysis. Develop categories for types of stakeholders such as users, support, interfacing, managers, people involved in various areas, domain-specific people, and so on. Make sure that all areas that the project will touch are represented by a stakeholder. Different point of contacts are required in different areas of the project, not just one or two point of contacts. Determine a proper communication strategy to for engaging with your stakeholder. What type of a communication? So we have a communication plan template that can be used to define the communication strategy that you must have with your stakeholder. You will need to build bridges to the stakeholders and will ideally be able to establish. In short, you should have at least one face-to-face discussion with a top management person to begin with. Then on, you meet with the stakeholder point of contact to get the requirements. That's what it means. Develop the list of questions you have to ask different stakeholder point of contacts. Determine the total time needed in getting the requirements, analyzing the requirements, and the communications that you should have. So that's what is termed as requirement planning, implementation, and requirements analysis. Do initial requirements gathering by obtaining answers to questions you have developed. Conduct face-to-face meetings as and when needed. Conduct different chat sessions. Whatever the question you ask and the answer you get, create draft documents and get the approval and sign off. You have to clearly explain the stakeholder what is possible and what is not possible. If you think a particular set of functionality is not possible, it is better not to give a fake hope to your stakeholder right at the beginning upfront and tell it is not possible. The solution is not possible for so and so reason. When you say no, you should also specify the reason for why you are saying no to a particular set of requirement. You have to get formal approvals and sign-offs from various stakeholders on different documents. So we have different types of documents which we will learn in different topics as we progress through the course. So that was an essence or a summary of what are the various requirement elicitation techniques and how do you gather the requirements and how do you put forth the requirements for analysis. So further to requirement analysis, we will see a lot of information of how the requirements which are functionally broken down get into the requirement analysis part of the documentation and how do you define the system design, functional design and architectural solution for the functional requirements that you have identified. So we are moving away from the theory part. So we just have four more slides that describe the theoretical explanation or that has some theory about requirements, which we will do in our next session. And then on, we will be moving on to the actual project, live projects. We will start with DAGSoft project. Then we will move to, that's a small size project. Then we will move on to ASAP or the performance enhancement system, which is a medium sized project wherein you will understand what are the different topics or sections that you have to create within a document. In that, we will see in detail how you can define the system analysis, how you have to define the system design. We'll take an example of a project, a domain, and how a software was created for that particular domain. And what are the various details that are captured in the document. That's what I mean to say. There are various diagrams, models, and documents that you will learn starting from part 3. Theoretical part is getting over. Only up to requirements lifecycle management. You have theory that has to be understood, which gives a very strong foundation for your business analysis concepts. So most of the theory have been completed. Next session, we have 4 more concepts, which we will finish quickly, and then we will move on to the live projects. But before that, you should understand how to create a brainstorming and legend diagram using Visio and a mind map diagram using Visio. So let us create a simple mind map diagram using Visio. It's a very easy diagram. So what do you mean by a mind map diagram? We will see that. Open the sample mind map diagram given to you all. So when I say open an instance of Visio, you must understand that right click on your Visio installation, the icon, and select Visio 2016 or whichever is the version you have installed. As always, click on blank drawing. Click on metric units. Click on create. Click on view, page width, scroll up, Click on Home. Save your drawing. So I have the folder created. I'm not going to repeat it again and again. This is called a mind map diagram. So why is it called a mind map diagram? We will see that. What you have visualized by having a discussion with your stakeholder. You have visualized something in your mind, or you've got an understanding in your mind. And instead of putting that in simple paragraphs, 10 lines, 20 lines, it will be very presentable if you can create a simple mind map diagram. So here is a mind map diagram for a website design. You have had a discussion with your stakeholder, point of contact. They have given you the information or the requirement of how the new website should look. So they're asking for a home page. It's a retail website. They're asking for a home page. The home page should contain header, footer, sub pages and a sidebar, navigation bar. So it is only for one page, home page, that you have created of what you have understood. Instead of writing lines and lines of text, it will be very presentable if you can create a mind map diagram and give it to your end user to say this is what I have understood based on the discussion which we have had. Right? So now we will create this diagram. All you need is a basic flowchart shape and a basic shape. So we have seen basic flowchart shape in yesterday's session. We will use the same flowchart type and include under general you have basic shapes. That's all. So you have added the required stencils. So stencils contain the shapes that should be used for representing the diagram that you intend to create. Correct? First, create the center part of the topic. Drag it. Make sure you find the center line. Leave it here. So what is this? It's a retail website. Next, add the process. What is this process? It's a home page that you are defining for a retail website. It's for a retail company. Copy, paste. Header. So now what is this header going to contain? Header of the website, web page. It's going to contain the company logo, links to navigate, and Facebook, LinkedIn kind of social icons. So add a smaller process. Type the details. Logo. Copy, paste. Links. Links means other web links or other. How do you navigate to the other page? You need some links, right? So that's what it means. Social icons. Any questions so far? Any confusions about the terms that I'm using here? These are very simple terms. All of us have worked on different websites, right? So these are simple terms that I'm using in terms of creating a web page. That's a home page within a website. If you want to look at sample website, open tableau.com or w3school.com. You'll get an idea what I'm talking about. If you haven't worked on websites in the past, you can do that. If you've already worked, then this is going to be very easy for you. When I say worked, if you've opened a web page and navigated at least for placing order of some items for your household items, you would have done it, right? Online purchase is a common thing. So how do you view the home page? So that's what I'm trying to design here. What I have visualized in my mind, I'm trying to put that in the form of a diagram. Solutions. Sure, John, I will answer your question by the end of the session. Please download in Visio. So I'll tell you how to find that. About. Next, header is done. Footer information. You can select the shapes holding your control key and mouse click. I've already explained this to you in yesterday's session. Easiest way to copy, paste. Change the text. Footer, images, links, privacy policy. Okay. On the right hand side, copy, paste. Be very careful. Drag it down. Otherwise, it can disturb the entire diagram. That's why I'm telling you, be careful about when you copy paste. Sidebar or a navigation bar, correct? Where you have different links. You can click on each link and it will take you to a different web page, right? Search, blog, additional products. Enter products. Okay, so now you have the framework ready. All you have to do is add the connectors. Very easy. Click on the connector, but you need curved connectors here. We don't need straight connectors. Click on design. Connectors are of three types: right angle, straight line, curved lines. Select curved lines. And now click outside. Start adding the lines. So automatically you have selected curved line in the design, so it will remain as a curved line. So easy, just drag, drop. Attach the points, one point to another point to connect different shapes together. Correct? This is now completed. Back to the pointer tool, you have to add some text-based explanation, right? So what you can do is add a text box. You can type the text in Notepad or in Word, and you can add a text box, double click, copy the text wherever you have typed and paste it. Top align, left align, that's all. Back to pointer tool. If you think you need a border line, select this, set the weight to quarter. Add a title. Click on the text box, drag the text box. What is this? It's a mind map for website design. Correct? Add a text box to define the drawing number. Always drawing number is very important. That's all. This is a completed drawing. Save your drawing. If you want more number of pages, click on the plus mark to add pages. Right click, delete to delete the page. Rename. This is a mind map diagram. Right click. If you want to duplicate this page, you can click on duplicate. Automatically the same drawing will appear in the next page. Right? So if you don't want this, you can delete it. Insert a new page, delete a page, rename a page, duplicate a page. Page setup doesn't much to do. It's a standard page setup, so you can leave it as is. Is there a significant difference between a straight line and a curved line? Do they have their unique meanings on a diagram? Yes. There's a different set of meaning when it comes to the type of connector that you use, right? So whenever you represent a flow, workflow, or when you have to represent what you have visualized, or what is the way in which activities are carried out, it is always good to represent using the curved lines more than a straight line. Okay. Any questions about mind map diagram? We are done with the mind map diagram. Do you have any questions for me about this? Next, we will see how to create a brainstorming. So while it is still fresh in your mind, you have learned the brainstorming diagram, right? You've learned the concept of brainstorming. What is a brainstorming? Requirement elicitation technique. So now we will see how to create the brainstorming and legend diagram. Open an instance of Visio. Blank drawing, metric units, create. Click on View, Page Width. Remove guides. Click on Home. Don't forget to save your drawing. Always make it a practice to save the drawing and then complete the drawing. Got it? So this is called brainstorming and legend diagram. So what did I tell you about brainstorming? Brainstorming means involving at least 5 to 7 people and getting more number of ideas. So a lot of discussion goes through in the brainstorming to come up with a final solution. So we will see 2 sessions of a brainstorming activity which has taken place in a software company. They're developing a marketing plan. It's a marketing software which is developed, which has to be developed, and then you're trying to brainstorm to get the requirements. There are 2 sessions. Morning 11 a.m. is the first session. Afternoon post lunch 1 p.m. is the second session, right? So now we will see how to create the brainstorming and legend diagram. Click on More Shapes, Business, Brainstorming. Click on Brainstorming Shapes. Next, click on Legend Shapes. So you need both brainstorming shapes and legend shapes together. Back to brainstorming shapes. Here you have limited number of shapes, so it's very easy to understand. Along with this, I also need the basic flowchart for my process shape. The center part is going to be the process. What is that? It's the marketing plan. Double click and type marketing plan. Click on the brainstorming shapes and add the main topic. Main topic for discussion. So when you drag this, it's going to be bigger. You have to reduce the size of it. Reduce it to 10 or 12 points. What is this? 10 points. Remove. It can be bold, but remove the border. You don't need this border. Set it to quarter point. Now it looks normal. Product. And you have the process shape. So here in the process shape, assets, strengths, weaknesses. So these are all the topics that you're going to brainstorm. You're going to have a thorough discussion, get a lot of inputs about. Okay. Next, pricing information. So it's a one-time activity. You add it once, you can copy paste it. And you know Visio, right? So it's going to help you with the vertical dotted lines to place it exactly vertically aligned. As for price, copy and paste. First is for low price. Next, we're going to talk about high price. What you're going to talk about, we will see. Promotion. This is a product promotion. It's not a promotion given in the companies. Promotion. And then placement of the product. So where it has to be placed, right? So this is equally important. Placement. In promotion, you have two parts. One is the advertising part, topic to be discussed. The next one is trade show. What are the different types of trade shows that you can use for product promotion? So these are all marketing techniques. Placement, it can happen in a wholesale store. You have to change the names of these. This is advertising. And next is trade show. Placement, wholesale. The other one is retail. Okay, these are actually the topics. So you have to add stores and then add the topics. So where will you find topics? Topic 1 to discuss. Topic 2 to discuss. What is topic 1? Wholesale store placement. Next is retail store placement. Now this is ready. Use the connector. Again, I'm using a curved line connector. Click on the connector and create very nice connectors. It should look presentable. Okay. If you're dragging it from the same point, click one step out somewhere in the white space and then you can drag a line from the same point again. Okay, this is a completed view. Now you've created the brainstorming diagram. You have to add legends. So what are legends? Instead of giving explanations in paragraphs of what did you discuss about a particular topic, you will be using the legend. So here you have a question about the weakness of the product. So place a question mark. So you have to discuss about, or you have already discussed about the weakness of the product and there's a question pertaining to that. Low price is of low importance. High price is of high importance. Below high price, you have two different topics added. So we missed that. So add two topics. So what are these topics? Estimate and actual. Okay. An estimate. Add your connectors. So an estimate, there's a follow-up. So add the follow-up legend. It's a shape, that's it. Actual pricing, you're going to talk, there's a task associated to that. So add a task legend and there's also a to-do. There's a to-do task, a task to be done. So it's so easy. You see, there's a task to be done. Very easily represented using the legend, right? Instead of writing paragraphs and sentences, it's so easy to create as a diagram, isn't it? So advertising, there's going to be a meeting you have to add the meeting symbol. Trade show, you need some ideas. So that is still not done. Put an idea symbol there. Placement, most preferred placement you have discussed so far is work wholesale placement of the product. Session 1 is now done. So add a text box. Add the details pertaining to session 1 of your brainstorming. Morning session is completed. And then add a text box. Okay. Save your diagram. So session 1 brainstorming, this is what you have done. This is what you have discussed. Now session 2 will be a continuation of session 1. So what you can do, create a separator. But before that, same information you need. So copy, click outside, click in the center. Don't forget to click in the center of the page. Otherwise, copy paste will not work properly. Click in the center of the page, paste it. So even then it is extending the page, which is not a good sign. So try to click exactly in the center of the page. There's nothing wrong if the page gets extended, but to the maximum extent possible, avoid the page extension. That's what I'm trying to say. If it's unavoidable, no issues. You can do it. See, now it's perfectly within the page. It's not unnecessarily extended. Okay, done. This is session 2. First change this. Session 2, it's going to be a 1 p.m. session. Right? Drawing number is 2. Save the drawing. We're going to make changes to this, but before that, let's add a separating line. Click on search, type line, and click on the search icon. Okay, so line is being searched. Just wait for it. First time, it can take a few seconds. Done. Now, look for lateral line. That is a type of line that you have to add. Scroll down, search for a lateral line. Drag the lateral line and drop it. Extend the separator. So now both these diagrams are separated. Back to stencils. You can change the shading of this. If it's too dark, you can convert it to a lighter shade of gray. Okay, it's a very nice line separator. Let's continue with session 2. Afternoon session, what's happening? You're going to further talk about the weakness of the product and some other decision has been taken. So what is it? The weakness now has a warning. You further discussed, you asked that question, and finally you decided that there is a warning about the weakness of the product. So place a warning symbol. Next, about strength of the product, in the afternoon's discussion, there is some information needed. So add the information symbol. Under pricing, so all of these follow-ups, tasks to be done, everything is completed. So estimate, you have to schedule some time. So add a time symbol. Trade show, lot of discussion has gone through. So remove the idea symbol. Advertising, meeting is done in between. And then there is a question about advertising. So place a question mark. Trade show is now divided into multiple topics. So add multiple topics. Drag the multiple topics symbol here and paste it one below the other like this. So what is the multiple topic that you're going to discuss? So click on the top, edit, live trade show. Next, recorded trade show. Visual impact. Okay. Catalog show. That's all. Add your connectors, curved connectors. Quick and easy way to add. Drag and drop if it's not fitting properly. Extend the line slightly. Add the connector. So now this should look better. Keep it a curved connector, don't make it a straight line connector. Okay, so I've adjusted it as much as I can. Good, so this is done. Now, what are the legends? Live trade show. Done. Discussion is over. Agreed. You can place it to the left or right. Both are correct. Use the shift and arrow keys to adjust the spacing. Recorded trade show. There is a activity that you have to do. So place this. Use your shift and the arrow keys. Visual impact. Decided not to do. Don't do. Do not do. Catalog show. There is an activity to be completed. So add the symbol, shape. That's all. Store placement. You decided to go with both the methods, but first priority is wholesale. Second priority is retail. Don't think there are only 1, 2 and 3 priorities. You can have n number of priorities. 3, if you want, you can double click and you can make this 50. It should still work. This is 50th priority. So you can have n number of priorities using the shapes defined here. So now what you have done, you've completed the session 2 brainstorming discussion. Whatever has been discussed, you've created a very good diagram to represent that. Finally, you can also show the legend. So what are these symbols meant for? Drag the legend and drop it here in the center. So this will display the symbols that you have used. You can right click and you can adjust, configure legend. So you can remove the subtitle. You can show the column name or you can remove the column name. You don't want to show the count, you can remove the count. How many times you have used a particular symbol in your drawing, that's what it is showing. If you don't want that, you can remove. Move up, move down. If you want maximum number of used shapes to be on the top, you can do that. 3, 2, there's one more 2 here. That's all. And then you have 1. Click on OK. The count is not displayed, so you can also display the count. So 3 times, twice, and once you have these symbols used. Very easily understandable by anyone looking at this diagram. Instead of writing lot of text, sentences and paragraphs, easier way to represent n number of such brainstorming sessions. If you think your end user knows the symbols that you've used, you don't have to use this legend. Otherwise, it is a good practice to create a legend so that the end user can refer to what you're talking about. because it has an explanation here on the right hand side. Question, low importance, to do, high importance, warning, done, meeting. Okay. Save the diagram. Don't forget to save your diagram. You can also convert this into a PDF and you can send it as an email. So you know how to just click on save as PDF and you will have the PDF downloaded. Good. So do you have any questions for me? We have completed the requirements management lifecycle to the maximum extent possible. We have done with the diagrams. Requirements change management, CCB, gap analysis, impact analysis, risk analysis, and the corresponding templates is what we're going to see in our next session, followed by system design. Okay. I will be posting the assignment question based on the theoretical learning and the diagram that you've learned. Please do attempt the assignment question and post your answers in a week's time. Video recording of the sessions will be posted at the earliest. Please do look at the videos to get an understanding or revision of what you have learned. Any questions for me? Okay, there was a question from John. Let me answer this question. I couldn't locate the link to download Visio. Okay, where can you find a link to download the Visio? Within the blog training materials, where you have downloaded the study material, you should find a file with the name trial application web URL. When you open that file, download the file trial application web URL, you have the instructions of how you can download Visio and install Visio. Hotmail, create a Hotmail account. Then follow these links to download and install Visio on your system. Any difficulty, please contact Microsoft Chat or you can also contact me through Mr. Sunil. It's very easy when you follow the steps defined here, but create a Hotmail account free of cost and then install Visio on your system. You can easily do that. I hope that has answered your question, Mr. John. And Suliat as well. Within the blog training materials, you have the path. I have given a diagrammatic representation of how you can navigate to the training materials. In the training materials folder, you have the study material and trial application web URL file. It's a Word file. Download that file. If you still have difficulty, I can ask Mr. Sunil to email this file to you both. Good. Any other questions for me from any one of you? Okay. If you have any more questions, please post it on the blog on queries to the trainer. I'll be glad to answer you there. Thank you so much for attending today's session. Let's all meet in the next session with more number of topics. You all have a good day and a good weekend ahead. Take care. Bye.